In a tweet on Wednesday, CEO Jack Dorsey said, quote, "We believe political message reach should be earned, not bought." The new policy will go into effect on November 22nd. Joining us for all the details, it is Bloomberg Technology's Kurt Wagner. Kurt, why this decision?
I think the timing is unique in that Facebook literally announced earnings at the exact same time, and here Twitter is basically rolling out a policy that is very counter to the one that Facebook had. I mean, listen, we've been talking about this a lot over the last couple months, which is what are these companies going to do heading into 2020? Are they going to allow politicians to essentially pay to promote falsehoods on their platform? And Jack Dorsey kind of hinted at this last week during an interview where he said he didn't necessarily agree with the stance that Mark Zuckerberg had been taking. And here he is kind of, making the official statement today that they are not going to be the ones to let people pay to promote lies.
I do like that you brought up how notable it was, because the headline in that tweet came out right as Facebook was reporting their earnings. That is not a coincidence, right?
I imagine not, no. And because this policy is so starkly different than the one that Facebook has, it was a pretty opportune time for them to not only, make a splash and kind of announce this, but also do it at the time when everyone was paying attention to what Facebook was going to be doing with their earnings. So I don't think that this was necessarily coincidental.
Kurt, I want to talk about Twitter's business a little bit. You heard Mark Zuckerberg come out and say that political ads were not a big important portion of their revenue, not a big portion of their business. Do we have any indication of how much political ads contribute to Twitter's revenue?
We do. Actually, we just heard from Twitter executives a week ago on their own earnings call, and they said that during the 2018 midterms, they brought in about $3 million in revenue from political ads. So that is a very, very small percentage, pretty much non-existent part of Twitter's business, And so it's kind of an easy thing for them to do. Not only are they taking a stand, Jack Dorsey obviously believes this is kind of a moral or symbolic stand about free speech, but it's also not really going to hurt them at all financially. So it's a pretty easy decision when you think about it that way.
Well, not hurting them financially. So then how does this help or hurt their overall appearance with regulators? Because Twitter really had been staying out of the eyes of regulators. So coming out with this, what does this change in the eye of regulators?
I don't know if it changes as much at all for Twitter, because as you pointed out, they weren't really part of a lot of these discussions. What it might do, though, is it might apply some extra pressure to Facebook, because now all of a sudden you have one of their chief rivals when it comes to not only advertising, but just kind of these free speech debates coming out and taking a very different stance. All of a sudden people might say, well, hey, if Twitter is willing to do this, or if it's going to work on Twitter, why can't it work on Facebook?